Have you ever wondered what John Wick would be like as a comic, but also a comedy? Well, I give you Sakamoto Days. New manga are hitting the shelves left and right nowadays, but in between the nonsense bland fantasy manga, there's actually some hidden gems. One of them being Sakamoto Days, obviously. I started collecting Sakamoto Days around the time it began being published in English. And one day I was in a comic book store and I saw it on the shelves and I heard it was new, so I decided to try it. I then read through it and I thought it was pretty good. Nothing too special, but it had a good premise and good characters. Months later, I picked the series back up and I began to realize how good and fun it was. For me, I feel like it began to get really good after volume 2 because things started to open up a bit more and you started to see more of the world and what was actually going on. I know a lot of people like to compare Sakamoto Days to John Wick because it basically is kind of the same thing, but it's also a lot more than that. I love the whole aspect of the shop and how all the main characters get recruited to work there. And it's like in between all the action and the fighting, you get a little slice of life, which I really like from this. And it really does feel like there's an aspect of danger in between the constant comedy between the characters and the main character duo, Sakamoto and Shin. With Sakamoto also having his own family to protect. So it's like every time the shop gets attacked or he's out with his family, you're like, what's gonna happen here? Is family in trouble? Then they end up like defeating the bad guys without the family even noticing, which is, I thought it was a pretty funny idea. And that's the kind of like thing that happens every time because it's like he's kind of keeping the secret that he's back in this world. It's kind of not the same time because it's not by his choice really. Like the main thing is like he just keeps getting attacked by people who want to like take him down. There's like bounties being put on his head because this infamous assassin from like back in the day. I feel like this is what a lot of these stories seem to lack. An actual threat. And not as a threat like a villain in the story that's just trying to kill the main character. I mean there's something else in the story, not just the main character, that needs to be protected from the villain. I feel like with his family in the shop, it creates this kind of more, you know, like a reason for him to keep fighting back because he needs to protect these people and protect his shop. And now he also needs to protect his own crew as well. For example, in John Wick, he just has himself to protect. Like after his dog's killed, which is still one of the saddest scenes in cinema, you know, there's nothing, it's just him. It's just him fighting bad guys and I feel like there's no actual threat. Yes, it's fun movies and still really fun and good to watch, but I feel like there's no like there's no threat. There's no actual danger. There needs to be these other characters and these other reasons for the character to be doing this, I feel like. Which is why Sakamoto is so good. It's not just, oh, a hitman, he has to, you know, defend off these people who are trying to kill him and hunt him down. Because even though it is like, yeah, it's a comedy and like an action, I love this like serious aspect to it. Like some points there where it just gets really serious. You're like, oh damn, you know, it changes up on you and you're like, oh, I didn't see this coming, you know what I mean? Because if it is just the main character and him fighting people and literally his name is on the cover, it's called Sakamoto Days, he is obviously not gonna die because if he just dies, it's like, well, that's not Sakamoto Days anymore. But obviously the main character isn't gonna die. But if you have something like this where there's assassins and people trying to kill you, you do need the actual threat of like something can happen, people can die. That's why in shows you do need characters to die, or it's like the threat is just empty. And I also love the combination of the comedy and the seriousness of the story and how it switches throughout. Because 1 second it can go from the characters joking around to Sakamoto becoming serious and getting into his slim form, which is also something to talk about. Like when he gets proper serious and like there's proper danger and he's like, I need to like defeat this dude, he goes into this like superpower like slim mode where he's like even more powerful and even more stronger. I won't go too much into the story because I don't want to spoil too much, but all I'm going to say is there's a moment in a recent volume I've read where there's a moment with Shin, and let me just say that bit is amazing. That was like the peak of Sakamoto for me. I'm like, whoa, this is getting good now, bro. Do you know when you're reading the story like, yo, this is getting really good? That's the moment where I felt it. Like even before, yes, it was still proper good. Sakamoto is still amazing, but this moment is like, it made me realize that this is so good. Like it can be, like when it's finished, it probably will be a masterpiece. But I feel like some people will read it and they won't realize the reason why I said that. Because I feel like you need to understand like the inner workings and the actual story and what's going on and how like actual stuff works to know how good it is. Because most people read it like, oh, it's really fun. I think a lot of people would just read it and be like, yeah, this is fun. It's good. It's like a good bit of action, good bit of comedy. But if you really look into it, there's a lot more that meets the eye. There's a lot more depth to it than you'll first think. I wouldn't really say Sakamoto's a slow burn. It's kind of like it grows on you, but from the start, it does just keep getting better and better and better every volume, which I feel like you need from this, because some stories you're like, it's good at the start and then it just gets worse. Like a really good intro and then they just can't hit the ground on the middle part. Like every single volume I'm liking it more and more, and as I'm reading I'm thinking this is going to become one of my favorite mangas. Now don't even get me started on the action, it's just fun as hell. With the different ways that all the characters in the Sakamoto team fight, it really just swaps up the action and keeps it new and keeps it fresh. It doesn't really become old and it feels fresh every time, and it feels like there's actually enhancement in the fighting like every volume. Like the characters using their skills more, learning more, fighting better. Like Shin, he just gets better and better, because at the start he's not the best, but then he learns and he gets better. When they fight together as a team, that is what makes this so good. I mean obviously it's Sakamoto Days, but it's Sakamoto and the crew, you know what I mean? I feel without them, it wouldn't hit as much. The enemies get stronger, we see how the characters deal with more dangerous and different situations. One thing I love is when the enemies actually see Sakamoto, they all believe that it's not him because he's like this fat old like shopkeeper, and he's believed to be like this well-known assassin who was really good back in the day. But then it's so funny because then he just beats their ass up. Then they start thinking, how did I get beat by this old guy? Like that's like the funny aspect to it. It's just like this old shopkeeper and he's just so good at fighting. I feel like that main premise is just so good by itself, but added on with everything else, all the characters, everything else, the different villains, the deeper story and everything. Boy, masterpiece incoming. It's a slice of genius, honestly. For the comedy side, I say it lives up pretty well. It's not really that laugh out loud funny, but it can give you a few chuckles every now and then. And I feel like a cool part of it is Shin can read minds, so Sakamoto doesn't really talk most of the time. He just thinks what he's saying and then Shin can read it, so that's how they communicate. And then sometimes he has like these visions of like killing Shin, like it's like a joke. And she's like, why did you think that? Like, it's pretty good. Another thing that I really admire about it is it doesn't take itself too serious. I feel like that's what a lot of mangas and stories do. They just take themselves way too seriously. And it's just not fun. Obviously, I'm saying not every story needs to have comedy. A little bit of comedy in it is good. You know, it just doesn't need to be 100% serious all the time. You can have this little, like, brief, like, breaks where something else is going on. The characters are having a little bit of fun, you know. That's what you always need, just, like, to see the characters breathe and live their life in the moment. And then go back to the seriousness of it, and then like, you know, this guy's gonna attack his whole family, he's about to be killed. But in between that, I'm just gonna have a meal with my friends or something like that, you know what I mean? I mean, even like when serious things are happening or something's just happened, the characters will still crack a joke, or there's like a little snide remark, or Shin or someone will take the piss out of how the villain looks. I just love it completely. It's such a good read. Just if you need a fun, good manga, Sakamoto Days is it. If you're looking for a manga that can keep your attention and can switch from serious to funny in a matter of seconds, this is what you're looking for. Now, there's one thing we really can't forget about, and that's the covers, baby. God damn, do they look beautiful. Stunning. Absolutely gorgeous. I mean, look at all these covers, man. The colors, the characters, everything about it is perfect. I just love it when series and mangas do this, when they put a different character on every volume to kind of like represent what's going on in the volume and who we're going to meet in it. Then another cool little detail is how they put the character on the spine of the volume and also on the back. It also looks great when it's on the shelf with all the characters lined up together. That's the main reason why I don't like Mob Psycho 100 volumes, because it's just him in different poses and it's kind of just lazy, really. It's just boring. Like, I'd like to see a different character on every different volume, because then it's different and it's new and it's cool, and then you can line them all up and be like, this is all the characters in the actual series or in the story. If you haven't heard of Sakamoto Days before this video, go check it out now, because it's definitely an underrated masterpiece. I've been Kolenzo. Please subscribe for more videos, and I'll go get reading in a bit.